It's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fall. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show.
Turn up your mind.
You about Marjorie Taylor Greene. How concerned are you about her past posts, remarks, rhetoric? What would you like to see done about her?
What I'm concerned about is the Republican leadership in the House of Representatives, who is willing to overlook, ignore those statements, assigning her to the Education Committee when she has mocked the killing of little children at Sandy Hook Elementary School, when she has mocked the killing of teenagers in high school at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. What could they be thinking, or is thinking too generous a word for what they might be doing? It's absolutely appalling, and I think that the focus has to be on the Republican leadership of this House of Representatives for the disregard they have for the death of those children. They not only are they not interested in gun safety and gun violence prevention by passing legislation for background checks legislation, which is overwhelmingly supported in a bipartisan way in the country. Yeah. But to have someone who would mock, call it a fake, those fake events onto the is just beyond. It's just beyond any understanding of any regard that the House Republicans would have for the House of Representatives, for the Congress of the United States, and for the heartbreak of the families in Sandy Hook and at Marjorie Stoneman High School. It really, at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, it's really beyond the pale. You're just going to have to ask them why they thought that raised itself to the level of something appropriate to do in the Congress of the United States.
Democrats and Adam Kinzinger, okay, that's how it's going to be, are beside themselves with the idea that Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Q lady, she's the QAnon freak. She's a nutbag. Everything to her is an Alex Jones false flag. That is her source of news. We have these seriously deranged people serving. It's not bad enough that we have to deal with white supremacists, that we have to deal with guys like Mo Brooks that perpetuate a big lie in this country that has led to violence, that has led to an insurrection, led to a coup, and points directly at the president as the motivating factor for all of these people who are at home making bombs, who are making improvised explosive devices, who are planning and plotting on kidnapping Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, after the president of the United States tweeted, "Liberate Michigan." They not only went after Gretchen Whitmer, but they had other plans that included a military-style assault on the State House and the state police who protect it. They were going to kill police, Michigan State Police, to get to her. This lunatic fringe group called the Wolverine Watchmen. They had field training exercises in 3 states, okay? They created shoot houses to practice breaching the Michigan Capitol, a shoot house to practice breaching Gretchen Whitmer's vacation home, which apparently is on an island, okay? And so they also created explosive devices to blow up the bridge that connects her island to the mainland so that she couldn't escape and so that police couldn't come to rescue her. They bought $4,000 worth of explosives to blow up a bridge to try to prevent the police from responding, okay? And then they had discussions about, should we do it before the election? Should we do it after the election? And then they said, oh no, the other groups are going to cause civil unrest if Trump loses, so maybe we could blend into the civil unrest and do it after the election. They had field training exercises where they built homemade bombs. They had gunpowder, shrapnel, fireworks for ignition. They had tried to explode these devices a couple of times. So far, they had failed. They're looking at life sentences, and so one guy is going to rat out on the other guy. And the lawyers, oh my God, the lawyers, he's just using his First and Second Amendment rights. He posted pictures of her vacation house. He was on an encrypted chat with pictures and video, having discussions about what to do if Biden won the election. They talked about attacking her security detail. They talked about getting a shoulder-fired weapon to destroy the lead vehicle in her convoy. I'm talking like, the shoulder rocket launchers. One of the defendants, his name's Barry Croft from Delaware, said he'd brought an AR-15 military-style rifle with projectile launchers for that purpose. He also brought zip ties and a taser to help neutralize the governor so that they could kidnap her, bring her to another state, put her on trial, and execute her. And they all said the same thing. They were responding to their commander-in-chief. Their commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump, told them to liberate Michigan. They were going to do it. They were going to do it. Now you have other reports. The self-styled militia members in 3 states, they were planning in November for recruits and weapons for a breach of the Capitol. And all they're planning now, everybody, can see, because there's an indictment, and the indictment has been unsealed. It was unsealed yesterday. And the prosecutors revealed contacting recruits on the 9th of November, 6 days after the election, for basic training outside of Columbus, Ohio. This is another group. These are the Oath Keepers, okay? So we saw the Proud Boys yesterday in the Wall Street Journal videos that the video journalists were able to capture and map out that they were in the front, that they were the ones that broke through that window that we saw. They're the ones with the police shields. They're the ones that are beating, police officers. Okay, so now this one has to do with the Oath Keepers. Stewie, remember Stuart Rhodes, who's always on Alex Jones' show. So there's a 15-page indictment, and it shows that on November 9th, 6 days after the election, there was a basic training camp outside Columbus, Ohio, and they said that they would be, quote, fighting fit by Insurrection Day. The guy that led this is an ex-lieutenant colonel. I guess Janet Napolitano was correct, okay, when she said that these veterans were being recruited into these groups like Oath Keepers, 3%ers, Proud Boys. Well, Proud Boys are only 4 years old, okay? So we'll leave them out of Janet Napolitano's alert, her Homeland Security advisory, that she was forced to retract by the Republicans because our vets are sacrosanct. They would never, ever rise up against their own country. Why? Who loves this country more than the veterans? Well, the Navy lieutenant commander organized dozens of others to storm the castle, in his own words. Real-time conversations were recorded and recovered from a walkie-talkie app discussing a group of 30 or 40 sticking together and following the plan. The plan. Go to RandiRhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.